Hey guys, what's up? So we have a new update on Advanced Server and it's patch 1.5.54. The hero adjustments on this patch are based on the recent M2 tournament results and their performance in ranked games. So if your main hero was overly picked during the M2 event, expect a nerf on this update. First on our list is the nerf on Yi Sun-shin. The developers removed the slow effect on his ultimate. This makes it easier for the enemies to avoid its damage by moving. They also lowered the damage of his first basic attack from his passive. Only its early game is affected. Damage remains the same when he reaches late game. Next is the nerf on Benedetta. They increased the cooldown of her first skill by 2 to 2.5 seconds. Same for her ultimate. They added around 7 to 11 seconds of cooldown, but in exchange, they made its damage higher. So longer cooldowns for her first and ultimate skill. Next is the nerf on Lapu Lapu. They lowered the damage of his enhanced basic attack from his passive, from 200 down to 150% physical attack. And the damage from his heavy sword ultimate is also lowered by 60 points. Only the first two parts are affected though. The last part still deals the same damage. Next is the nerf on Yuzong. They lowered his HP stats by reducing his base and growth HP. They also increased the cooldown of his third skill by 2 to 1.5 seconds. So lower HP and longer cooldown for Yuzong. Next is the nerf on 1-1. Her marks will now deal less damage. Instead of dealing 2.5% of the enemy's max HP, it now has a fixed value of 50. They also lowered the duration of her marks, from 10 seconds down to 6. Her first skill damage is also reduced. Its base and attack scaling is reduced. This makes it even harder to farm in the early game for 1-1. Next is the nerf on Esmeralda. They lowered the shield from her first skill by 100 points in the early game. The amount of shield remains the same when it reaches late game. Next is the nerf on Brody. They lowered his physical attack growth by 3.5 points. The stun from his second skill now has a shorter duration, from 1.2 down to 0.8 seconds. His ultimate damage is also nerfed. They lowered its base damage as well as its missing HP damage. In exchange, they increased the skill's physical attack scaling from 100 to 180%. This adjustment was made because of how he can deal good damage even when using tank items. Now he has to use more attack items. Next is Sylvana. Previously, the passive mark will only appear if she uses a skill. Now it can appear when she uses basic attacks. The basic attack damage is also affected by the passive. Her attack speed ratio is now lower from 100 down to 80%. It means she gets less attack speed stats when using attack speed items. Her basic attack is also adjusted, making it more dependent on magic power instead of physical attack. In short, using magic power will further increase her basic attack. The base shield of her second skill is lowered, but they increase its magic power scaling. This means she needs more magic power items to increase her shield. Her ultimate now has a longer cooldown in the early stage of the game. They added 8 seconds at level 1, but it remains the same at level 3. I think they wanted her to be played as a fighter instead of a tank. She now needs more magic power stats to maximize her skills. Next is Hardy. You can now see a timer for his ultimate. It's this light that you see around his ultimate. This is a nerf on Hardy because enemies can now time his ultimate. Lancelot can easily use his second skill immunity to avoid the damage. They can also use the spell Aegis to absorb the damage. Next is the buff on Aurora. They increased the magic power bonus from her first skill from 130 to 200%. Her ultimate is also adjusted. They lowered its base damage but increased its magic power scaling from 180 to 240%. This means higher damage for Queen Elsa. Next is Theresa. His second skill now deals 100% damage to minions when it reaches late game. His ultimate cooldown is now shortened by 8 to 6 seconds. But in exchange, they lower the maximum damage reduction he gets from his passive skill, from 45 down to 35%. Next is the buff on Moskov. They increase the attack speed he gets from his first skill, from 20 to now 40% in the early levels of the skill. Next is Helker. They finally fixed the sound volume of his second skill. It's now softer unlike before where it was too loud. Next is the Revamped Argus. His passive skill animation is now slower. He takes a slight pause to deal his third damage. But in exchange, they increase its damage. They also increase the heal he gets from his passive by 5%. Next is Beatrix. They increase the damage of her basic attacks on all of her weapons. She now reloads faster than before. Attack speed will also affect her reloading time. You can now see the bullets remaining below her HP bar. They also improved all of her weapons' ultimate. And that's it for the heroes. Now let's look at the battlefield adjustments. There is now a new bush in the map. It's located right here. This is good for jungler trolls because they can hide here while waiting for the enemy to take the buff. It's also a good place to wait and steal the turtle and lord. Walking Grass is back. It will follow you whenever you kill the little wanderer. It also gives 1% mana for every 1 second. Based on the patch, they will also add a patrol little wanderer next season. Towers will now give 15 instead of 10% damage reduction to heroes that are near. The first tower damage is reduced by 10%. Its damage is increased by 75% if it hits the same hero consecutively. They slightly shortened the hero resurrection time in the early game but increased it in the late game. This gives players less chance to make comebacks. They increase the gold you get from jungle creeps when using a jungle item. This is good news for junglers. But in exchange, they lower the gold and experience they get from minions in the first 5 minutes. From 40 down to 50% lower resources. Next are the items. Queen's Wings now has a higher physical attack from 15 to 25 points. But its HP is now lower by 100 points. The damage reduction from its unique passive is also lower from 40 down to 30%. Immortality will now give more shield in the late game by 100 points. Its resurrecting time is now longer from 2 to now 2.5 seconds. And they increased its cooldown from 3 minutes to now 3 minutes and 30 seconds. This means you'll need to wait longer after using its unique passive. Clock of Destiny now has a shorter stack interval, from 30 to now 20 seconds per stack. They also adjusted the maximum stack to 12 and its magic power growth from 5 to 4. This means you can get a full stack of COD after 4 minutes instead of 5. Next is Eve. She will be released on February 12 for 32,000 battle points or 599 diamonds. Sicilian and Carmilla skins will be available on Valentine's Day. Last one is Luoyi's new skin, Dawning Fortune. It will be available on February 10. So what could you say about the update? Do you agree with the meta nerfs that they made? Who else do you think deserves a nerf? Share your ideas in the comment section. That's all for this video. Stay safe and thank you for watching.